I'm continuing this series on spring cleaning and spring detoxifying your body. And now we're going to talk about how does the body detoxify. This is probably going to be my favorite video, but it might be more detailed than you want to know. So we'll try to keep it simple and go over the basics of it and try to keep it simple enough for you to understand, but complex enough for you to really get some advanced knowledge out of detoxification. Too many practitioners boil detox down to a simple juice cleanse, and it's not that simple. Your body's detoxification processes are very, very complex. So I like to break down removing toxins into two basic categories. So as we talked about in my previous video, what types of toxins are out there: biological, mold, environmental chemicals, and heavy metals. So with those types of categories, if you don't know what types those are, go back and watch the other video. But when these three categories of toxins, the biological, how about I zoom in a little bit? The biological, the mycotoxins, and the environmental chemicals, those all come out of the body in a process that I label as just plain detoxification. The idea that your body has to change these chemicals, process these chemicals in order to get them out of the body. That is a process of detoxification. Although removing heavy metals is listed in the broad category of detoxification, I don't like to call it detoxification. It's called chelation for a specific reason. Heavy metals are not processed by your body at all. When you get too much lead inside you, the lead is removed as lead. Your body can't change lead to aluminum or to magnesium or to iron. That's called alchemy, and that's magic, and that doesn't exist. So in my opinion, I don't like calling heavy metals a detox process, although it kind of is. It's a chelation process. All other toxins come out through detoxification, also called lipid exchange. Lipid exchange is the fancier version of detoxification, and so that's basically what we're going to talk about is lipid exchange. So what are the big differences between detoxification and chelation? If you notice, detoxification is very complicated. It's multifactorial, it's time-consuming, and you can do it with all natural supplements and foods. Chelation, on the other hand, is very straightforward. It's considered more aggressive by the medical community. It's much more expensive, and it uses man-made chemicals. Now, there are foods and substances that can help you chelate metals, but I'm going to warn you that it is a very slow process. If you expect to chelate yourself with cilantro, then you're going to smell like a Mexican kitchen with cilantro if you want to detoxify all of the heavy metals. It is not a fast process using foods and supplements. So unfortunately, we use lots of man-made drugs, for lack of a better word. It is a drug, but it's a non-metabolized drug. It's a drug that we give via IV or oral. You absorb it and you pee it out in its whole form. You take it with a certain mineral, it grabs a different mineral and then takes it out of your body, and hopefully the minerals it's taking is toxic. So this is one of my favorite diagrams. So just changing gears for a second, we're not going to talk about chelation first. We're going to talk about detoxification. And this detoxification is something called lipid exchange. And this diagram is what I use for even teaching my own practitioners and nutritionists the process of detoxification. There's a lot going on this slide, but we're going to start with one section at a time, and I'm going to explain it to you. So this diagram starts in this corner over here with toxins. We've already talked about the 4 different types of toxin categories. There's your 4 different categories. And the first step, as we've already talked about in my previous videos, and if you haven't watched them, then you need to go back and watch them, is you can either avoid the toxin or get exposed to the toxin. So this is where I call stop the RE-TOX. The first step in detoxification is avoiding the toxin. Because when you avoid the toxin in the air, food, water, or weird products, then you never have to detoxify. You just avoided it. Free detox. You didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to buy a supplement. You didn't have to do anything to get rid of it. You just avoided it. So in the world of buying organic when possible and avoiding conventional dirty food, dirty products, you're actually buying detox support because you're never even exposing yourself to that toxin. And then you're giving the body the ability to get something else that's already inside you out of you. So unfortunately, as Americans and all over the world, we've all been exposed to toxins. So inevitably, if exposure to toxins is faster or is more than your ability to detoxify, you start storing those toxins. I like to consider it like your closet space in your house. The longer you live in a house, the more likely you've got junk in your closets that you don't need, and hence the spring cleaning where you go through and start cleaning stuff out. It's just a known fact. We humans accumulate junk. Not everyone collects junk at the same rates. But our bodies are the same way. The longer we've been on this planet, the more toxins we've been exposed to, we're storing those toxins. If you want to take that even a step further, every time a woman gets pregnant and gives birth, they're giving some of that toxic burden to their baby, and the baby is starting with a toxic burden and then getting more toxins. This is one of the ideas to why cancer rates, diabetes, everything is on the rise as far as medical is concerned because of this toxic overload that's happening. If you don't believe me, there was a study by EWG where they sampled babies that had never taken a breath. They had taken umbilical cord blood right out of the womb when the baby was born. They took blood from the umbilical cord and submitted it for testing and found over 200 toxins, only the ones they were looking for. Over 200 toxins were all found in the umbilical cord, and these were babies taken from around the United States. So you can look up that study. It's by EWG. So once you've stored this toxin, the big black box of death, you can store these toxins in the brain, the muscle, the fat, the heart, the kidneys, anywhere. These toxins stick to you just like your closets. If you've got a closet in your master bedroom, probably got too much junk in there. If you've got a closet in your guest bedroom, probably too much junk there. In your garage, so your body's no different. It's going to store toxins wherever it can if it can't deal with them. In the first step of your body removing toxins, I like to tell people that say a toxin is in your brain. In order for a toxin to get from the brain to, say, your urine to get it out, there's no magical brain urine. Your brain doesn't, you don't go to the brain bathroom every now and then, the brain urinal to get rid of brain juice. You don't. Your brain has to get that toxin to the stool, to the urine, to the sweat. It's going to do that through the bloodstream. So the very first step of detoxification is actually a process I call mobilization of the toxin. That brain, that fat cell, that muscle, whatever it may be, in order to get it out of itself, it's got to mobilize the toxin. As the toxin floats in the bloodstream, it will go around and around the body until it gets to the liver. And if it gets to the liver before it lands somewhere else and goes back into storage, and if the liver has the ability to process that toxin, then that toxin is processed. So in the process of detoxification, this is a critical step that burns a lot of nutrients. So this is where calories and nutrients come into play. And that's where you need, if you haven't seen my videos with Tyler, we talk about nutrients and calories and how that's important in detoxification. Nutrients, not the same as calories. Nutrients are the actual pieces of food, the ingredients that actually are able to detoxify. The body steals these nutrients and puts it onto toxins in order to change the toxin and get it ready for elimination, almost flagging it for elimination. It's no different than a retail store bagging something up and giving it to you. You don't walk out with a t-shirt in your hand. You walk out with a bag and the t-shirt inside it. Your liver is doing the same thing. It's trying to flag something for elimination so that it is gotten rid of. Calories are important in detoxification. As Tyler and I talked about, I like to think of calories as the thing that's churning the pump, turning the handle, grinding away. But the little cogs on the wheel, the little knobs on the wheel, are actually what's giving grip to that wheel as it's turning around. Nutrients are the grip and calories are the churning. So one of my pet peeves is juice fasts and juice cleanses and the master cleanse of drastically under eating and thinking your body's just going to magically detoxify. That's not how it works. You must have nutrients in order to process toxins. Enough said, right? Once you've processed those toxins and it's flagged for removal, your three exits are, this is the elimination phase, by the way, your three exits are the stool, urination, and sweating. You don't get to choose which toxin is processed by the liver. You also don't get to choose how that toxin comes out of you. So whenever we're detoxifying our patients, we're always encouraging them to be doing all three. You got to be taking the trash out every day. You got to poop every day. If you're not pooping every day, we're going to start there. Next is you got to be urinating. And in order to urinate, you have to drink enough water. Urination is like the easiest way to detoxify. Water-soluble toxins are very easy to get rid of. By drinking enough water, you simply make enough urine to get toxins out. So everyone should be drinking enough water, not too much. And then number three is sweating. So in Texas, we sweat all year long practically, so it's not as big of a deal. But intentional sweating in infrared saunas or whatnot in order to get more toxins out. And if you don't have access to an infrared sauna and you're in the South somewhere, all you have to do is just go sit in your car in the sun with your windows rolled up and you'll make a sauna for free. The sun is wonderful. So this is the whole diagram, and starting from toxin to exposure to storage, to then mobilize the toxin, process the toxin, and finally eliminate the toxin. One of the key pieces I want to make sure I mention before we move on, and hopefully not to lose you, is that it's important to realize that mobilized, unprocessed toxins cause what I like to call snow globing. The idea here is that there's a lot of writing going on, as the storage of toxins accumulates, and then you start to mobilize toxins. As the toxins get mobilized into the bloodstream, remember that they are unprocessed. They are not in the t-shirt in the grocery bag or the take-home bag. They are still in their toxic form. So just because the brain ejects a toxin doesn't mean it just magically ends up in the liver. It's going to circle, and if it doesn't make it to the liver, it's going to land in a muscle fiber. And maybe that muscle fiber is going to be fatigued and tired and weakened. And so it's important to remember that in a detoxification plan, if you were feeling worse during detoxification, you're doing something that I call snow globing, and that is not a beneficial status. Too many people do aggressive detoxes and laugh it off like, oh, you feel trash, that's okay, you're detoxing. No. If you feel like trash while you're detoxifying, then you're actually overrunning your body's ability to detoxify, no different than alcohol poisoning. If you drink too much alcohol, you will end up, well, it can kill you. So too much alcohol is a problem. Just enough is a good time, but snow globing is too much mobilized, not enough processing power. So whenever we start our detoxification plans for our patients, we always start at what I call the bottom up, and it's not just a stool joke. It's starting with the stool and the urine and the sweat, and then working our way backwards to the liver processing, and then going for mobilization. So last but not least, is I'll take this slide and show you that there's different components, supplements, things you can do to speed up detoxification. So let's start at the top down, and then we'll fly through this, because this is best done with an experienced practitioner, but many of these supplements you can get on your own and put together your own regimen. First of all, got to avoid the toxins that we talked about in other videos. The first step of detoxification from your body of stored toxins is phosphatidylcholine. You can do fasting, you can use butyrate. Actually, the butyrate here is not a oral butyrate. This is the butyrate here is by fasting, your body actually generates butyrate. There is a butyrate supplement, but that's more for gut health, not for detoxification. And then sauna, we talked about sauna for sweating, but sauna also helps mobilize the toxins, because as you speed any chemical reaction, or as you heat up any organism, any cell, any chemical, it speeds up its detoxification or mobilization. So heating someone up increases mobilization. After the toxins are mobilized, you can use glutathione to mop it up, but you really want to make sure you're supporting the liver's processing with methylation of B vitamins and DIM. You want to be doing extra glutathione, alpha-lipoic acid to help regenerate glutathione, and silymarin, also known as milk thistle, are components that can help the liver process toxins. The other components we use in the elimination side of things is a drug actually called Questran. It's a prescription drug that binds up bile, especially toxic bile that we want to get rid of. So that's a drug we use. We heavily focus on enough fiber to get the stool moving and get the stool out. In addition, you can use charcoals and clays to bind up some of the toxins that are inside your bile, inside your bowels. Of course, hydration for urination, and sauna for sweating. That's the basics of detoxification, or what I call lipid exchange. So I could talk about that if you asked any of my prescribers. I could talk about that for hours. So that's the simplest version I can go over. Please feel free to leave questions and comments. And next, we're going to talk about boosting those detoxification pathways. I mentioned some of them in this pathway already, but it was more of a spitfire quick release. And so now in the next series, or the next video, we're going to talk about how to boost those individual pathways. So if you want to know more, stay tuned.